Hi and welcome back to V8 Creative, the YouTube channel where I, Nigel, are sharing with you what it's like to build an Ultima RS. This week, what I'm going to be covering is the completion of the cooling system for the monstrous V8 that's going to be sitting behind me in this car. Last week, part 9, I showed you the installation of the radiator and twin electric fans and the ducting to force air into the cooling matrix. Now this week, I'm going to focus on the coolant pipes that run down the side of the car, and that is to allow coolant to go from the V8 to the rad and from the rad back to the V8. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through a process of what I do every time I approach a job. So step by step, I'm going to show you what I do to minimize errors, to ensure I have everything to do the job smoothly, and also, fingers crossed, when I sit back and crack a beer, I can say, good job. Today's a good day. I'm in the Dean Den and I've been given a pass to be here for the whole day. So what I want to do is I'm focusing on one particular job, and as I said in the intro, it's installing the coolant pipes down either side of the car. And I thought what I could do in part 10 is actually go through the process I go through in my mind when I'm preparing to do a job, because as my father said, preparation is key. So with that in mind, what I'm going to do is go through the 3 stages I do before I start any job. Number 1, do I have the right components? Now, I'm confident that Ultima supply all the parts I need, because they always do. And what I have in front of me here are those components for this installation. So to start with, we have our 2 alloy pipes. We have those. We also have 4 P-clips and 4 rubber inserts. We also have extra long pop rivets to fit these P-clips onto the chassis. Then we need 2 rubber hoses, one angled and one straight, and that's what's in these bags. And then 4 large Jubilee clips, which are in here, and then 1 small Jubilee clip, which is for this hose that comes off the top of the rad. So I'm confident now I have all the components to do the job. Next, tools. So the tools I need: a drill, fully charged, do that the night before. Next, we have a 3.3mm drill bit. I would suggest always having 2 in case you snap one off. You need measuring devices, ruler, and you've probably seen I use a digital caliper like this, which I find very useful for accurate measurement. Also, we require good old skin pins. These have caused quite a lot of interest actually. A lot of people have asked where these come from, and what's so nice is these are supplied with the Ultima kit. And then the next tool is we're going to be applying a lot of sealant, and I'm a bit embarrassed by this because I use this for my decorating as well, but obviously one of these. And then last but not least, Mr. Rivet Gun. Next, consumables. Now the consumables we need: Worth adhesive, or sealant rather, and this actually seats the tubes onto the chassis. The wax seal that comes with the kit, because every time I drill a hole in that chassis, I make sure I squirt some of this in. Masking tape. Now, as I said, these tubes actually sit on the chassis on a bed of this sealant, this Worth. Now, I'm a bit fussy and I like to actually use tape on the circumference of that sealant, so when it's actually smeared round, it gives you a perfect line. And finally, a small 1/4 inch drive. Now, why do I need one of these? Well, as you know, hose clips, Jubilee clips, whatever you want to call them, have a hex head on the end and also a screwdriver slot. Now, I always, and I mean always, prefer to use a socket to do these up rather than a screwdriver. And why? Well, if you use a screwdriver, it's very easy to gall that head. And what I mean by that is actually bite into the metal, which can then remove the corrosive resistant coating and make them rust. So always use a socket. And these Jubilee clips actually use a 7mm hex head. And that's it. So I have the components, I have the tools, I have the consumables. Let's get spannering. Now, hose clamps, sometimes known as Jubilee clips or hose clips or worm drive clips, are an ingenious invention. And actually, I think it was in the 30s that they were invented, the idea. And a small worm drive within this unit, once it is done up, allows this band to actually be tightened, reducing the diameter of this hole and clamping the silicone hose. Now, there's a few things you need to know about how to apply these. Firstly, if you're using silicone hoses, just be very wary of the type of hose clamp you are using. And what I'm talking about, it is the rear of the assembly here. It needs to be compatible with silicone, but silicone's quite soft. And if for any reason there are sharp edges under here that can dig into this, then it is not the right clip to use. Now, of course, these were supplied by Ultima, and the brand is, let me see if I can see this, is High Grip. Now, there's a few things when you're installing these clips that's worth considering. Firstly, put a small amount of 3-in-1 oil on this like ridged part on the clip. What this would do is this will ensure that this shallow depth of thread, because it is quite shallow on that worm drive, is not compromised when you are tightening up the clamp. Next, try and line up the heads. Now, what I'm going to be doing here is I'm going to be lining up the heads so they face outwards, because once the shell of the car is opened, I can access it through this section here. And in addition, if you put the worm drives underneath, when you're looking at the car on top, you will be seeing this type of finish, which is much neater. So I've been doing a lot of measuring here to just get this, the bottom of this pipe, 7.5 centimeters from the bottom of this rail. Now to do this, I'm going to have to trim these P-clips. So according to the Ultima measurements in the instruction manual, this pipe is in the perfect position. However, since I have the luggage containers here, I thought, well, why not fit one just to ensure the clearance is perfect, because I just want to be 100% sure this is right before I commit to riveting and putting sealant on. So let's get Pete the penknife and open up my luggage compartments. And typical, I've unwrapped the wrong one. So there we go. So this is a luggage container. And as you can probably see, let me see if I can position this. There is this step in here, which is where the coolant pipes go through. So I'm going to check if this fits. So what we're seeing here, this is the template of the end of the luggage compartment. This is vertical, and we can see by having this 7.5 centimeters off the bottom chassis rail, you get a perfect gap all around this tube, which means it's in the perfect position. Now the next stage is to bed this coolant tube on some sealant between these two chassis members, like a saddle. Because listen, that's what would happen if we just left it like that. So now I'm a bit fussy when it comes to sealant, so what I'm doing is putting on masking tape to stop the sealant going places I don't want it to. So here we have it, passenger side coolant pipe installed. And I must say, I'm pretty pleased with the installation. Okay, this P-clip here needs a slight adjustment, but I'll do that off camera. Now, I'm not going to show you the installation of the driver's side because it's exactly the same. But what I hope is you found this informative, me going through the way in which I approach a job. Now, even with trying to do this to the best of my ability, there were still things I overlooked. For example, tools. There was a set square and a depuring tool that I needed to use that I forgot to put to one side at the beginning. But I had those, so no big deal. And then as regards components, I forgot the zip ties. But anyway, those are in the box as well. So I hope you've enjoyed this episode. And until next week, happy spannering and stay safe.